Hi everyone, my name's Elizabeth Warburton and I'm really excited today to be here with the award winners of the UK Property Investor Awards. Now to my left we have Tom and Joe from Hunnings Homes and they won Best Commercial Property Conversion. Tom, Joe, thank you very much for being here today.
Morning, thank you for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. So firstly, I want to talk, before we go into the awards and about your property life, tell me how Hunnings Homes first started and where it came about for you both.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
So I've run a building company for a number of years with the help of my brother, and we've always wanted to get into our own property development. It's the natural progression for a building company. We started with our first small flip deal a number of years ago. It was a little bungalow in Poole, and we did quite well on it, and we always knew we wanted to do more. Work was just busy, so we just never quite really got around to following through.
Yeah.
As the building company got bigger, I got introduced to Tom, excuse me, and he came and was immediately really helpful with our building company. And straight away we said, well, this guy's brilliant. We need to involve him in something a bit more. So we decided we'd bring him on to the property development business. And again, we kind of sat on our laurels a little bit for a few years, being busy with work, being busy with things we should have been busy with. And then COVID came round and it gave us a bit of breathing space, really. And things have just sort of snowballed from there. Amazing.
So what were you doing then before coming into the business?
I worked in corporate, essentially, professional football.
Okay.
Doing a variety of different roles for probably 10 years. Yeah, across Bournemouth, London, and then down to Portsmouth. And essentially, I got the corporate bug, thought it was for me, it was the dream job, and just ended up hating everything about it and essentially packed it all in overnight.
Wow.
And actually ended up becoming a labourer on my friend's house, over in Bournemouth. Knew of Joe, knew his brother Jordan really well, and I suppose the conversation ended up going from there, coming into the building company, which was really good for me. And then we set up the development company, or the development company was set up, but I came into it, like Joe said. And I suppose COVID hit us extremely hard.
Yeah.
We were talking and probably lost sort of £250,000 worth of business within that COVID week.
Wow.
And we had our first little development that we had bought, so we just decided to keep the lads busy on the paid work, and we jumped on that for free, essentially, and just built it out, and it ended up being a brilliant project for us.
Tell us a bit more then about that project. What was it?
So it was Nortoff Road in a place called Charminster in Bournemouth, and it was a bit of a funny story, wasn't it? Without going into it all, me and Joe went to the auction. As Joe does, he didn't pay for any parking tickets or anything, so I hung about to buy the parking ticket.
Right.
Joe ran in just to make sure we were registered and all that sort of thing, and there was a guy behind me who saw the catalogue, and he was sort of like, "Oh, you're here for the auction?" I said, yeah. And he's asking loads of questions about what we were buying, and we got talking about the little light industrial unit. He's like, "Oh, I'm in for that as well." I said, "All right." He said, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it or how I'm going to fund it, but I quite fancy the project." And
wow.
He started asking.
He was completely blind. It was a real eye-opener for us.
Honestly, it was real crazy. We'd done a bit of due diligence. We got the lawyers or the solicitor to have a little look at it. Not probably as much as maybe we should, but done a little bit. And then, we ended up going in the room. Then we got a couple of token bids in, but we were outbid. And Joe was sort of chuckling away. I was disappointed. We were gutted, weren't we, actually? Yeah. I was disappointed, but Joe was chuckling away. I was sort of, what are you laughing at? And the guy behind us, this guy that was in the queue for the parking ticket, had just bought it blind. And sort of, fast forward a month, the agents called me and it had fallen through.
Wow.
So we actually managed to snap it up.
He couldn't pay for it. He actually, if you remember, he actually said as we left, he was like, "Don't know how I'm going to pay for this."
Yeah, don't know how I'm going to fund it. Yeah. And so long story short, we ended up completing, I think 8 days later. There's only a little sort of 50 grand, just over 50 grand we bought it for. We put just over 50 into it, so we're all in, I think, for 106 in total.
Okay.
And then we had it revalued at 220. So
brilliant deal.
Yeah, so from a percentage perspective, it was unbelievable. And that was almost where the penny dropped, wasn't it?
We were reviewing, when we were doing our end review, we were looking back, and although it was on a smaller scale, pound for pound, definitely probably still our best deal.
Yeah, and was that as well your first kind of tiptoe into commercial to residential?
Yes.
Yeah.
For ourselves, yes, we've done it as a building company, but for ourselves, absolutely. And it's also our first real foray into doing a property to let out.
Okay, so holding to keep for a portfolio.
Exactly. And that coincided with me doing Mastermind through PIN and Property Investors Network, and it just fitted really, really well. And that, like I said, that was the moment, the light bulb moment, or the penny dropping, and we were sort of like, wow, this is real. You work for 100 grand, you think how hard you work throughout a year or multiple years for that sort of money. So that was really the moment where it sort of clicked for us.
Yeah, and things started to go a lot more serious from there.
That's it. And then that was it. What was our second project? Can you remember?
West Hill. We looked
Road,
into the flats, and we've done the joint venture with Martin. And then
So is your area Bournemouth and Poole? Or thereabouts?
So myself and my brothers are all based in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Tom lives in Portsmouth. So that means we can cast quite a wide net of the south coast area. But we're not. I wouldn't say we're geographically constrained, are we? We've got some interests up north. So we've got a joint venture partner up there, Martin, who we do some really cool work with. And I mean, it's working really well. Now he actually kind of just handles everything up there.
Wow.
So we're hands off, and that's really great because we've got a great relationship with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll look at anything really, won't we? Obviously, stuff in our local area is preferable. But if there's a good deal to be had, we wouldn't turn our noses up. It would be.
Exactly.
So let's talk then awards. You obviously won Commercial Property Conversion of the Year. Congratulations.
Surprised you managed to prize it out of Tom's hands.
Is it your prized possession?
It's my baby, yeah. It comes everywhere. Yeah, indeed.
So tell us about that deal then. Where did you find it to start with?
Yeah, so it was essentially 2 derelict barns that would go into an auction. We got brought before the auction, and it was very much a case we had to sort of act quite quickly. So yeah, I remember the first time we went there, it was like, wow.
Excited.
It was, and then it was sort of like, right, we've now got to find the investment to sort of put the whole thing together. And it was, because for me, not being, always had an interest in property, but not being in property or building or construction, for me, like a barn conversion was like serious. It's like next level sort of thing. And when I took Joe, or the deal come in and me and Joe went there together, he was just like, how calm he is on stuff like that. I'm sort of like, well, this is big, and he's just like, yeah, I think this will be all right. So if you can sort the investment, obviously we can build it, and then we'll work it from there. And I think, from my perspective, so I had to sort of sell the dream to a couple of sort of new investors on a big scale to put in upwards of sort of 400 grand for us overall, with some of our own funds. And so they had full planning for 2 holiday lets. So we've done serviced accommodation, since. Joe takes the whole of the input on the build and that sort of side, and you liaise with the architect more, don't you? So it's probably more your area to discuss that. But
yeah, so like I said, they were kind of 2 empty shells, masonry build, old tin roofs, and we just sort of started from the ground up, really, didn't we? So we had to obviously insulate them to bring them all up to building reg standard. We re-roofed them, added some steel work to strengthen the roofs, and then fit them all out. So one's a 3-bed, one's a 2-bed. We tend to rent them they come as a pair.
Okay.
We do split them down on weeks we struggle to let. And they've just been really, really popular, haven't they? And again, for us, they're a great asset because we use them ourselves. I've had some fantastic. You've been using it at Christmas, haven't you? Had some great Christmases there. I do a little event there every year for my friends, and it's everyone really looks forward to going there.
Nice.
And again, it's something we're looking to develop. So we've just booked in the end of Feb. We're going back for a maintenance week, and we're going to be adding a load of PV panels to the roof, and some additional sort of controls to the electrics to try and get our bottom line cost down, and obviously sort of help the environment along the way if we can.
Great.
Which again kind of fits with the vibe of the place, being in a rural location.
Nice. Can you discuss the numbers with me then? Can you take me from purchase price through and how it was award winning?
Yeah, of course. So we bought it for 280,000 cash. We put initially just under 250,000 into it, plus fees and a few bits and bobs, we were probably just shy of sort of 600. We had it refinanced for 850. So, going on the similar model to Nortoff Road, it was probably there are sort of 2 no money in deals. We're able to refinance everything out. So obviously return on investment is infinite, but from a cash flow perspective, it's pretty much just over 2,000 over the year, because obviously the summer months are
busy,
like packed back to back.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Whereas it's a little bit quieter out of season, particularly midweek. So that's something we're sort of working on this year. But we're just over average last year. I think it was 2,100 a month, so it's sort of just over 25k sort of net profit a year. Of which this year, as Joe said, we're putting that back into the solar and a load of other stuff to sort of bring it up to the next level. So it's a really, really good deal from that part, and proud to be part of it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Sure, but I think it's good, worth mentioning, like both those projects were just really enjoyable to work on.
Yeah.
From a perspective of the guys on the ground doing it, obviously we're a very hands-on company.
Yeah.
We all like to get involved. Even Tom, although will tell you he's a man behind the numbers, he loves to get in there with a shovel and get involved, and I think that's really part of our journey as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you feel really part of the place and connected to them when you've done them.
Yeah.
And we know them inside out, from a maintenance perspective, don't we? So
what was the time frame from start to completion?
We started.
It was almost 6 months.
It was. We started pretty much. We got in October. The main start was sort of November when the building regs drawings were in, and we finished. We had our first booking on the Easter weekend, so right at the end of Easter,
we were ready for. Again, I mean, we're not going to take credit for the timings because it was a bit of potluck, but we were ready for our first booking when the COVID restrictions were lifted.
Amazing.
So it really
timing was
that was thank the service accommodation gods for that one. We really landed on our feet there.
Yeah.
But we've maintained that momentum, and the bookings have got better as well. So I think that's a testament to how good the project was.
Yeah. That's quick timeline.
Yeah.
Was it under permitted development? Or did you have to go in for full planning? Or
we bought it with planning.
You bought it with planning.
It had pre-approval.
Okay.
So we came in, and then we got our own architect on board to do the building regs drawings. We had a few material amendments we had to go back through, but we could literally from the day we bought it, we were on site the next day, stripping out and making a start.
Yeah. We were talking about that on the train this morning. We're very much from a risk perspective. You'll probably see some trends across what we do, permitted development, prior approval, full planning. We've got some HMOs that already got planning and licensing. So from a risk perspective, particularly at the start of our journey, it was quite an important thing to sort of, and from a build perspective, if I can get it over the line today, essentially Joe can, with all the boys and the rest of us can come in tomorrow and crack on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really important part. You see a lot of people get their fingers burnt, don't they, on sitting on something that they're trying to get planning on or trying to maximise planning. It can be a year, plus.
I think planning is becoming more and more of a dark art. Planning consultants, they're very non-committal. God knows what's going to happen when it reaches a council in terms of time frame or their decisions. So we do like to buy stuff with planning, pre-approval, and it just your money's not tied up, and you're taking so much risk out of it.
I think just quickly on that part as well, that allowed us. So we actually floated it on Airbnb. I had it on Airbnb at the end of November.
Okay.
So
trialing
with CGIs and some sort of renders and a few things like that, and we had I think we had about 45 grand's worth of bookings before we officially opened. So it wasn't like we finished April and then.
We were literally, so we hit our target really good. We had a tight program. We were waiting. We had some bespoke shower screens, and they came the day of the first guest. As the first guests were walking in, I was siliconing the shower doors into position and telling them they couldn't use them for a few hours.
That was crazy, and that was also the morning. So BT cut our internet and our Wi-Fi off that morning. So. Bless them, Pat and Kev who were next door, like the best neighbours you could hope for, and they gave us gas, electric, water, teas, coffees,
so we managed
everything.
to run a Cat5 cable across our land, and they let us drill into their house and plug into their router, so we had guests.
Oh my gosh, isn't that
on the morning, and the guests turned up. It was crazy, people, and the guests must have turned up they were a little bit late, about 3:30. We just packed up the last two vans.
Two single mums with their kids, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we were walking out, and they were like, "Oh, it's beautiful. Is everything ready?" And we're just like, Yeah, it's been ready a while. You know, we're literally plugging that internet cable
Does
in at
it
the last
have
minute.
the all-important hot tub that people are raving about?
It's got two.
It's got two. Wow,
Yeah.
because that's the number one requested thing on Airbnb, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was where, you know, so I would do the figures on a high level.
Yeah.
Then if there's a potential deal there, it goes over to Joe.
Okay.
And he either agrees or blows it out the water normally.
Yeah.
And then that gives us some sort of practical idea around the costs. And that was where our overspend was on this project, was we did an outside fire pit. We did a lot of Astro, 2 hot tubs.
Can I come and stay in this Airbnb? It
Of course
sounds
you can.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit more to you and growing up, because obviously property was not a part of your life at all. Building, was it when you were growing up? Is it in the family?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always felt from an early age I wanted to do something in the construction industry. Pretty much everyone on my father's side are in the building industry, and they've worked with or for me at some stage. My cousins, my uncles.
Right.
My real passion started for it when I was, you know, as young as I can remember. My granddad was a plumber, but he had a garage, and we used to spend all our time in there with him making things, bird tables, bird baths.
Brilliant.
And we absolutely love it.
Yeah.
That's me, I guess, me and all my cousins, and really influenced us from an early age.
Okay, so a hands-on family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then that led into, say, my father had a fencing company and then a building company. So, you know, school holidays were always spent with him at work. I used to love it. You know, we used to, by the age of 12, you know, he'd probably quite comfortably leave me and my brother actually doing a job for him with the fences up and stuff. So, and it was, you know, gave us a really strong work ethic.
Yeah.
But we were gaining practical knowledge. And when I actually left school and went to work for him, you know, I had a lot of experience already to bring in, but I got left with different trades every day, and it just gave me a really broad knowledge.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I just enjoyed it. I like it's obviously very satisfying working with your hands, seeing an end product at the end of the day. Obviously, being a tradesman, you know, you can earn some good money. It will take you so far, but I was very open and aware of the fact that the way to sort of make a really good living and leave a good legacy for your family is to start doing to get the development yourself.
Yeah. And what about yourself? Did you ever see yourself becoming a property developer?
If I'm honest, probably no.
We call him the closet builder.
No, I think, you know, I look at my dad's, you know, very handy and likes to, you know, when Joe talks about some of those things, it's same my granddad.
Okay.
But my family are very much, you know, teachers or corporate jobs. There's a lot of that, you know, universities sort of throughout. So I have a very much different upbringing.
Yeah.
And then when I look back at some of my best subjects at school, well, the things I enjoyed the most, they were like design technology. So like an A star in design technology probably should have showed, you know, and I'd built a table and a few other things. But I don't know, I suppose because that wasn't in my close circle, I ended up probably being that person who went to uni because it was sort of an easy option, if I'm honest.
You sound as well like, sorry there.
That's all right.
You sound as well like you bring different skills to the business, which is great, very much complementary to each other.
Yeah, I think we both understand, like, you know, Joe's got an extremely, you know, I like to feel I'm part of that, but ultimately Joe's business is an extremely successful building company. And what I loved was like the ethos and how well things are done. You know, are we the cheapest building company? Definitely not. You know, if you were to get 3 quotes, we're probably number 1 or 2, but the service and the quality that's provided by that is, you know, speaks for itself. And that was the big thing that I liked. And, you know, like I said, I ended up in that corporate job, you know, working in the city, and some bits of it I loved. Some of the highs in football are probably the best highs I'm ever going to have. But the lows of having, like, you know, administrators come in the building and clear out the shop and those sort of things, and not getting paid for 2, 3, 4 months at a time.
Wow.
Were just sort of like, is this worth it? You know, and the hours you're doing 50, 60 hours a week and getting paid for 35, you know, it's that sort of, and at times you don't mind doing it because you're trying to build yourself up, but and when the opportunity arose to come into the company, and then I could see the vision. And for me, I still get asked all the time, people say to me, Tom, why don't you go out and do what you do on your own? And, you know, and you've essentially given away 75% of a business by having 3 business partners. And my argument, you know, someone asked me that on Wednesday night.
Right.
My big argument back is I'm doing 300-400 times what I'd be doing on my own. So by giving away a tiny percentage, and for me, the big thing is building and builders. I've had it on my own house going back 6 or 7 years. They came to fit a steel that didn't even fit, and I'm there thinking that steel's too small for that wall. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work it out. And when I looked at the way the boys do stuff, how quick they do it, how professional they are, and I think a lot of the perception around builders comes back to communication. And when I looked at how Joe communicated, now he prices jobs and breaks it all down and does project plans, and it was sort of, I was like, this is something I want to be part of. And the big thing was when we talked about the development company and can that, I looked at all these elements and thought, if we can take this into what I've got and I can get the deals and get the investors and, deal with the refinances and all of that sort of side, I was like, straight away it was like, we've got the full package, here.
I think that's a big thing that people underestimate as well, isn't it? They think, okay, well, if I do it on my own, I'm going to get all the profit. However, you also take on all the stress, all the issues, everything that goes wrong. Whereas if you've got a team and you're bringing different skills to the table, you can spread that risk out a lot onto the 4 of you as opposed to one.
I was going to say it's important probably to mention as well. It's not just me and Tom. So there's 4 of us at the director's table.
They're camera shy, aren't
they? They're not here today. But
name them though. Who are they?
So Jordan and Taryn. I'm sure they'll be laughing watching this. We've all got our own take on things. So Taryn's an electrician. He's got his own successful electricians company.
Okay.
So on the M&E side, he brings all that experience and he kind of deals with all that. And Jordan's our glue. I mean, he's been my right. I don't want to call him my right hand man. He's my brother. He's my equal. I wouldn't be here without him. But he's the guy that we speak to every day and kind of bounce those ideas off. And sometimes he's a person that tells you, actually, no, you shouldn't be doing this, and that's so important. And I think one of the reasons we're being successful but enjoying what we're doing so much is we've got that camaraderie, and having those victories on your own would be empty, wouldn't they, without the 4 of us. That's really, really part of it.
A couple of things on that. That I was again talking about this on Wednesday night, and I sort of said, property can be such a lonely journey.
Yes.
Especially when you first start. It's sort of, if you've got a pot of your own money, great. The chances are you're going to run out of that at some point. And I look back at some of like our moments where we've bought stuff, and when we went to North Off, so we, essentially it was the light industrial unit, and me and Joe took the boys there when we bought it, and Jordan just looked at it and went, so I've spent all my life savings on a fallen down shed. It was the reality of like, it was, and we went inside and
there's an acro propping something up where it's fallen down. I went in and fell, like just disappeared into a void in the ground.
There's probably a half a metre hole, trial hole for the footings, and Joe went straight down. And it's those little things, and then I think back as well, so we went up to, as Joe alluded to earlier, some of our properties were up north, so in and around the sort of Wakefield area. And we'd gone up there and we to do the refurb. So me and Taz went up and stayed in the loft of this property.
Being in Wakefield, we did a 36-hour refurb on a 2-bed house in Wakefield. Doors, whole kitchen. We did basically the tag team, didn't we? You guys went up first and got it ready, and me and George went up and we worked did like 18-hour straight day.
Wow.
Did the whole thing. And rented out the week after, didn't we?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was very much a case of like, we went up there, and like I said, me and Taz stayed up in the loft, and the boys came up and joined us. It was like, it was such a weird.
And that's when we got the news on the barn that we won it. So we were all dancing around this house.
Super happy.
These are really good,
That was just touching on that. It was such a special moment when you look back. I'd gone to Howden's to get a few materials because it was Friday just before they closed, and the agent had phoned me and said, "Oh, your offer's been accepted." I remember walking in the back door, and you were all there, weren't you? And I was like, "Boys, I've got some like news," and they were like, "Well, you only tell us good news." And I was like, "Yeah, the offer on the barn's been accepted," and it literally turned into like this melee on the kitchen floor of like the 4 of us, and it was like, I look back and that is that for me, because you imagine if that's you and just on your own, that'd very much be like the phone call comes in from the agent and, oh great, but that's the moment gone then, isn't it? I always say it's like in football when you score the goal, it's that instant moment, and it's those sort of things that make it all worthwhile. And
And did you expect to win the award?
We didn't have any expectations, did we? Obviously, no. I think we were introduced to the awards through someone at PIN, weren't we?
Yeah.
And then we looked, and we've entered other awards. We were actually a regional finalist last year for an FF. We were part of the FnB as well. We're affiliated with them.
Well, no, we won the regional.
Sorry, we won the regional. We got to the national final. Yeah, sorry, we won the regional.
Yeah.
Make sure we get that on the film.
Yeah.
So we just entered, and again, it's great to then, when you've been working hard, it's nice to have the nights out and be invited up to a gala dinner and stuff like that. So we're kind of just looking forward to that, really. When we sort of see it's close to Christmas, everything's quite festive. So to actually win, we were like, oh god.
Well,
we didn't really know what to say or think, did we?
Well, it's just the three of it, because we were sort of like, well, if we had a chance, we'd bring the team up and all of the staff and everything, and we even asked the boys, and they were sort of like, oh well. I had to sort of, Joe was up for it. Jord was like, well, up to London, and we managed to convince him.
Yeah,
and we sat down, didn't we? I had football, so I was a little bit late, and then I remember, you're looking around. There's some big names, massive names in property. like Max, who's here later, is on Property Entrepreneur with me, and there's people who are doing multi-million pound developments, and I still just think it's just like the four of us, and our little team, and just what we do. It's like Hunnings Homes, this little company based in Bournemouth. And I remember when it got announced, it comes up on, the realisation was when it was up on the pictures, and we were like, oh right, yeah. And then it was announced, and we were like, oh god, like, what do we do now? I didn't even have a jacket on, so there was like, it was like the photo of me trying to chuck it on.
The worst part was we were really drunk as well.
I think it was about 3 bottles of wine and beers, and then it was all the videos afterwards.
Yeah, it was a great night. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah. So what is next then for Hunnings Homes? What's your plan for 2023?
So we've just, we're just on the verge, aren't we? We keep saying on the verge, and I really do think it is on the verge now of completing on property in Gillingham. So it's an old church building. It's already been repurposed as a sort of as a commercial building, and we're going to convert that to 8 flats. So again, you're probably spotting a little bit of a pattern in the work we do. We like these sort of wreck-old buildings that we can bring back to life. So that's going to probably eat up my next 8 months of the year. And we're really excited about that. It's going to look really, really cool. Hopefully we'll be in a position to have it finished and nominated for next year's award as well.
Yeah, that would be exciting, wouldn't it?
Another little goal we have.
Yeah. Great.
And then really we're on the scout for more deals now, aren't we?
Yeah, so we've got to a point where we had a big, we do a strategy day at the Barns at the end of each year, get all the team up, and I try and, at first it was just me presenting everything, and I've managed to sort of siphon it off to Charlotte, Hannah, Harry. I do a bit of an update on where we are, and it's, as a property company, we're quite asset rich, we've got a decent portfolio, and the interesting thing, looking back to the start of COVID, like Joe said, all we were looking for was flips and developments. COVID came in, everyone was like, the property market's going to crash, you really don't want to do flips. So we were like, well, let's just buy some long-term stuff quite cheap. And sort of we've gone full circle now. We've sort of established a decent portfolio. But we very much decided to generate some sort of lumps of cash. So we're going to try and do a few flips and a few developments. So we've got, hopefully the church very soon. We've got one that we've bought up north in a place called Bridlington. Okay. It's right on the coast.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Along about 6 hours. I went up there. It's a lovely little seaside town. So that again is 2 shops, and we're going to do 6 flats above, and we're going to flip those as well.
Okay.
And then we're just open-minded really. I suppose the flips will give us, like I said, we're not cash rich, so we don't have endless pots of money in the bank. So when I find a project, it's then, where can we get some investment, and who can we sell that dream to? So it's very much, if we had a bit more of a buffer, it would allow us to be a little bit more, I say proactive, but maybe even reactive as to when something didn't sell at an auction, we could jump on it.
The better word.
We could jump on it, couldn't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we forget. We've just got another rent-to-rent deal this week.
Right.
And that came out of nowhere. It's a lady we've been talking to for probably 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
And all of a sudden, her circumstances have changed overnight.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we've got another rent-to-rent property on our books as well.
That's a really interesting point, actually, that you've just said rent-to-rent, because a lot of people seem to think that developers only develop, or people tend to just stick to one particular strategy. You seem to have, a fairly solid route into commercial to residential with planning, but you are diversifying as well.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think that was the thing for me. It was when we first started, it was like, we don't want to do joint ventures, we don't want to do rent to rents, we don't want to invest up north. And all of a sudden within a year,
got all three.
Yeah, within a year. And I was going through all the strategies that we had done, and service to accommodation, commercial to resi, exchange with delay completion. We've done all of these things, and I think that's what makes us quite rounded. I know so many people in Bournemouth particularly and Joe does obviously even more so, who are smashing it, but all they could do is developments or flips. And when I talk to them about, so what's your like long-term investment strategies, where's your pension essentially, and it's just relying on, if they need cash, they need to go and do another development. There's no long-term strategy there.
Yeah.
So it's, have you got any single lets, or have you got any HMOs or anything like that? So we've diversified across the board, and we even said 6 months ago we're not going to do any more rent to rent. It's not we're never going to do it if an opportunity presents. And the one that Joe just mentioned was a lady that Joe was introduced to about 2 years ago, and it's very much the ready package as it is. We can take it on for 2 years. The only thing I think we've got to do is renew the HMO license. So it's fully tenanted.
Brilliant.
And it's going to cash flow 1,600 a month. So it's like a no-brainer. It's not like we've got to put a certain amount of capital, 10, 20, 30 grand into it to get it up to spec, and we're not going to earn that back for a year or two.
Done deal.
Absolutely.
It runs straight away. So
on a day-to-day basis, and then it employs Hannah, who's Jordan's wife. She's doing the management side, and there's obviously always maintenance tasks to do or upgrades. So it gives us more work to do within the other businesses.
Yeah.
So it all becomes a sort of self-feeding beast, And again, that's another, again, at the moment, things are definitely tightening up in the construction side of things. And we've got all this kind of stuff that's churning out work for our guys to keep busy, keep earning money, keep food on the table, keep their heating bills paid. And it's a very satisfying way of doing business, because we're becoming more and more less reliant on other people.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So to kind of close out then for today, for people just getting into property, any advice that you would give them?
Cool.
Get a Tom.
Yeah.
Or don't. No, I just think, like, for me, start small. Start with what you're comfortable with. Is if you can use your own funds. Even on, like, you learn so much from just doing your first rent-to-rent deal. Or people say to me, well, you can't buy a property in Bournemouth for 50 grand. And it's like, we have. There's certain, a lot of it is on the mindset and things like that. So I think everyone's got to start somewhere. My biggest one, what I mentioned to earlier, don't be afraid to give away. I always say to people, 50% of something is a lot better than 100% of nothing. So for me, getting 3 builders or 3 tradesmen into the business, or me being incorporated in their business, meant that we could grow exponentially compared to doing it all on my own. So that's probably my number one tip.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah. And for anybody thinking about applying for an award next year, any advice or recommendations to give them?
Be prepared that you might win it.
And stay off the table line.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, it was something I was saying earlier, but sometimes a little piece of metal can mean so much. We talk about the team and our team, and the staff that we've got, and the lads who've been in the building company even a lot longer than me. Things like that are sometimes, it might seem small, but it's just a bit of recognition to show that you're doing things the right way. And that, it means sort of so much. It's on the side, everyone sees it all the time. We parade it around. When you can get hold of it.
When he says we, he means he.
Well, you have every reason to be super proud. It was a great deal. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me today, and wishing you all the best of luck for 2023 and onwards.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening.